Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. Your host here, Matt Zeha, buzzing as always. Today's episode is going to be an absolute banger. Guys, you see sun on my face. I always have the windows open in my office. This is the first time I've seen the sun in probably 3 weeks. However, it's still way too cold to go outside. So while I'm enjoying it on my face right now, it's about minus 13, feels like minus 25 in Toronto right now. For the American listeners, I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it is bloody cold. And of course, you got the wind chill coming off Lake Ontario. It's terrible, but it's a great day to record a pod. And our guest today is one of the GOATs, and this is going to be an absolute banger. Austin Campbell coming on the show today, finance and risk management professional with 2 decades of experience spanning trading, portfolio management, executive leadership, academics, you name it. Managing partner and founder of Zero Knowledge Consulting and serves as an acting CFO at Glueti, having recently held the role of acting CEO at WSPN. He has also taught as a professor at both NYU Stern and Columbia Business School, Wowza, specializing in finance of market. He's done a bit of everything: chief risk officer, head of portfolio management at Paxos. He's worked at Citi, Stonebridge, JP Morgan. If I read the whole bio, we'd be here for 10 minutes, but absolute pleasure. Austin, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing this lovely afternoon in Brooklyn?
Just as cold as you, man. Like, we've got the, call it indoor only vibe going on today. I've been sitting in the office all day. Yep. I went outside for like 2 minutes and immediately realized I'd made a terrible decision because I'd just taken a shower. Literally, like, again, I'm outside for 2 minutes. I already have like an icicle coming out of my hair. And I'm like, no, I'm back inside today. We're going to sit in here with coffee.
Have you seen the weather forecast for the next couple of weeks? And guys, we're recording on Tuesday, Jan 20. This episode is going to air 6 days from now on Monday, the 26th. But I do believe, if I read this correctly, and I saw this on Twitter, I saw this on X, I did not fact check it, so I could be wrong here, but we have a polar vortex, which is the coldest in 70 years. Have you seen the radar? Like, I'm not a radar guy, Austin. I just look at the forecast. My dad, he loves the radar. He's sending me videos and shit. He's like, you're screwed. My parents are going to Mexico. Anyways, have you seen the radar? Have you seen how hooped we are over the next 10 days?
I have friends who are in the southern parts of the United States, which, to be clear for people, there's like deserts down there, and they're texting me like, oh my God, it's going to snow. And I'm like, oh boy. All I can really say about that is, like, in the whole bio, the first part of my career, like working in the corporate world at all, was in reinsurance. People really underestimate how volatile the climate is in general, right? Like, we have this experience in our head of, oh, things are good. And there have been times in our history where most of the planet's been frozen, or there's been like stuff growing in Antarctica. So just like hold on to your butts, right, when it comes to weather.
And you before the show, you were saying Minneapolis. I love Minneapolis. I'm a hockey guy. In my opinion, it's the best hockey city, and Minnesota is the best hockey state in all the U.S. You could maybe throw, Boston in there for a great hockey city as well. Maybe you could throw Chicago, maybe Detroit. But people in Minneapolis, again, for us, this isn't that bad. We're used to it, but similar to you, my friends in Arizona, my friends in the Carolinas, who are like, it's going to snow, their whole city shut down, which I just find hilarious. They get an inch of snow and it's like, it's mayhem, it's doomsday. So anyways, weather's been wild. Okay, enough about the weather here. Let's jump into it. You're working on a couple very, very cool things. Maybe just start by giving us the little bit of the background, like, and why you decided to do what you do. You worked at 2 of the best and most prestigious universities in the whole world, let alone North America and USA. You worked at some of the best banks, hedgies in the world, and now you're going to the crypto side. What is it about crypto that tickles your fancy and made you jump from some really darn good TradFi gigs over to the dark side in the Web3 world?
Yeah, so I jokingly tell people I didn't really come to crypto so much as crypto came to me. And what I mean by that is I'm a person who's interested in market structure and fundamentally how money moves around, why money moves around, where it works, where it doesn't, where it breaks. Like, I was interested in finance prior to the great financial crisis, but really it was 2008 that made me a lifer in this industry, where some of the things that happened there were just fascinating. And I would say for me, the entrance into crypto, and I think this makes me a little bit of an unusual character in this space, is not about Bitcoin. It's not about decentralization. It's actually about some fundamental problems that we still have in global capital markets, right? Things like bond settlement, like derivatives collateral, like international correspondent banking, and how there are ways to build better systems where you can solve a lot of those problems and create, honestly, huge amounts of economic value for the world and reduce a lot of the tolls and inefficiencies charged by the current finance industry. And it was that line of thinking that really led me into crypto. I have spent a lot of time dealing with stable coins as a result of my background. And in many ways, I've been more interested in the tokenization of real assets and like the core fundamental properties of blockchain than specifically like token go up or token go down.
I like it. Okay. And you're one of the few people who actually has a huge academic background in this as well. You brought up stablecoins. Let's start with stablecoins. I absolutely love stablecoins. I know I beat this horse to death on the show, so I apologize, but most of the listeners, the loyal listeners, know my girlfriend's from Argentina. I've spent quite a bit of time in Argentina. It's one of my favorite countries in the world. These guys adore USDT. They don't use Circle so much, but they literally need it because when your currency can rise 100% in a month, which for Canadians and Americans have never even seen anything like that. Like I have friends who are shitting bricks when USD CAD goes from, 138 to 140 in, what is that? 1.5% in a month, whereas Argentinians can lose 100% in a month. They love stablecoins. We've seen it. Also, the freedom aspect of stablecoins too, very undervalued in my opinion. Had a guest recently who brought that up too. It's stablecoins are incredible. What gets you so excited about stablecoins as someone with a crazy amount of experience teaching finance, markets, the whole nine yards?
So one of the interesting things that happened in the Western world over about the past, call it 50-ish years, was this creeping encroachment of banks into running the entire payments system in a way that just was not the case before, and maybe is something we should have thought twice about before we even get to the applications in a place like Argentina. So, let's roll it back to the 1970s and ask the average person for how many of the payments in your life do you go through your bank. It's going to be a surprisingly small percentage, right? It's like I'm buying a car, I'm buying a house, like something like that. You do not buy a sandwich. You do not pay small amounts of money and have the bank involved because everything's happening with paper, right? Like I will remind everybody, no internet. And so to think that, I'm going to do everything with a check, like a deli is insanity. And it leads to this world where banks served their role as we collect deposits. So excess money that is not particularly mobile. And we lend out those deposits for economic activity. Right. And the scale of lending was also significantly lower than it is in the current system. And then we move forward to today where I pose this question to my students and it kind of shocks them sometimes. But I'm like, without using cash, how do you buy a coffee without lending money to a real estate billionaire? Right. And that sounds like an insane question on the surface. But when
it's like an IOU. Like, hey, I'll shovel your snow and I get a and that goes back to the old days of Austin and I go hunting animals and our wives are, using the skin for kilts and stuff. Yeah. That's wild.
But in the current world, a bank deposit is used for things like commercial real estate lending. So for me to just take a card and tap to pay, right, you're doing all sorts of economic activity that quite frankly are unrelated to what the people using the system for payments want. And for the most part, they don't get compensated for it. Because what does anybody get paid on their checking account nowadays? It's usually zero.
Yeah.
And so the deal with a modern bank is give us money. We're going to go lend it out. If it goes well, we pay ourselves huge bonuses. And if it doesn't go well, maybe the government will bail you out because now it's your problem. And everybody just acts like this is normal. And to me, I'm like, hold up. This is actually a huge historical anomaly with regard to how money and payment systems work. And so to me, what's really interesting about stablecoins is bringing us back to a period where the incentives of the system are more aligned with the people who want to use it for payments and quite frankly, less risky as well, because we now live in a world where if banks start failing, people can't buy groceries, right? And we should probably, and there's been some good research on this out of places like Chicago, but we should probably decouple the payment system from the levered lending like franchises.
This is my fingers are buzzing right now. If you see me looking on that side of the screen, I'm just taking notes here. This is okay. We've done over 500 episodes. No one's ever brought this up. I mean, keep going, keep taking a deep dive into the incentive side of things. This is something that I feel like not a lot of people think about. How do you see this playing out in the next couple of years if we become more stablecoin heavy? Again, in countries like mine and yours, I do think we're going to be the last ones to adopt this because we don't need to and because our financial systems do work pretty well. Yes, they are levered and they are rigged for the billionaires to get more billions and for the rich to get richer, and it's not for the everyday Joe and Josephine. But what do you think the future of this looks like? Do you think it's going to be more incentivized for the average Joe and Josephine, or is it still the billionaires are going to find ways to extract?
Okay, so for one, I think it's important to divide when you look at economic activity between the act of creation and the act of, call it, rent seeking. And a lot of the rent seeking in finance comes from regulatory barriers, right? Like nobody's using a bank because they deeply love and affiliate with their bank. They're using a bank because they have to.
Yeah.
Right? Like how many people out there could genuinely be like, I love my bank. I know the people there. I trust them. I talk to them every day. Right?
I don't know a single person.
Exactly. And if I know anybody, they're like 80 years old and it's their community bank and they're still doing everything in person and with paper.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But you're stuck here because the regulations have kind of evolved that way. And so I think the broad side that has changed everything is the Genius Act in the United States, where now payment stablecoins can enter the mainstream and offer a very different deal there. So the reason I say it that way is, are there going to be billionaires who benefit from stablecoins? Yeah, 100%, because in many ways they're the people paying very high rents in the current system, right? Because they don't really want to be paying the banks this much either. But is it also going to be significantly potentially better for the average person? Yes, because with stablecoins done properly, you'll have something that should be able to one way or another pay rewards or yield. And it's backed purely by things like treasury bills or lending secured by treasuries, right?
Yeah.
Not risky commercial real estate, not levered lending to hedge funds, not project loans to giant industrial conglomerates. And what that does is it gives the average person the ability to have a bank that they don't need to worry about, because at least in the US, unless the treasury defaults, you're good on a stable coin.
Yeah.
And then two, where the fees can be much lower. So this really is like economic realignment that returns power to Main Street, which is one of the themes that I actually care about a lot here, because we've disproportionately pushed gains to capital and like financialized, probably over financialized a lot of the economy. And a lot of that probably comes from like making banks who do levered lending the centerpiece of every single component of economic life, when in reality, they should be a component, but just a component.
Well said. I love that line. Economic realignment that returns power to mainstream. That is what we need. Holy. Okay. Let's go back to the tokenization of assets. That was a great deep dive on stablecoins. You're, again, very bullish. You've loved tokenization of assets. I've read the stuff, listened to the talks. Is there a specific subset of this that really gets you going? Is it equities? Is it precious metals, RWAs? I know you could sort of say RWAs are, or I guess rather precious metals and equities are RWAs. I sort of see them as different. But with that being said, what in particular, Austin, about tokenized assets gets you going?
So a lot of this comes back to what I was saying at the start of how the current financial system works, which is to say it's very fragmented. It has a hard time talking to other parts of the system, and there's a lot of toll gates. So let's step back and think about blockchains for a moment here, because to understand tokenized assets, you have to understand, why would we put these things on a blockchain at all, right? We already have ledgers, and now we're proposing using different ledgers. So a blockchain is open access, right? That is to say, you just need to create a wallet to be able to use it. And that's not to say you could definitely use all tokenized assets. There could be controls around those, but we're moving from a world where the default is like, you've got to check in at the gate to even be allowed in, to something more like a public park, which is to say the default is you can come in, but if you're a jerk, we can kind of kick you back out, right? That is a different paradigm. And then two, they're composable, which is to say these things work like money Legos. A lot of times you can build transactions or you can build economic models using different parts of the stack that can exist on a blockchain. So like very simply, if I have like, pick some crypto asset, say I have ETH, In the traditional system, I've kind of got ETH. I store it at a custodian. If I want to trade it, I need an exchange, or I've got to do some sort of OTC trade. And if I want to lend that, it goes somewhere else. And you get into this whole like, oh my God, what's the thing? Whereas with crypto, when you have like Aave and Uniswap, I can start chaining transactions together very quickly, all on the same platform and building things that work very cleanly, as opposed to taking T+5 days to get money from like a brokerage account to your bank account to Coinbase to then buy ETH. And so the composability, I think, is a bigger unlock that people think for innovation and competitiveness. Because if you let large players have walled gardens that other people can't build on, they just keep building the garden bigger and the walls taller. Whereas when you have a composable ecosystem, it really fosters a lot more competition among people for how these things are going to work. So blockchains. Why do tokenized assets matter now? Well, remember what I just said about open access and composability? If you were the average person in Argentina, right? Let's start there. And you wanted to buy US equities or even gold, right? Like your ability to do that right now is, well, either it's not happening or you're super fucking rich and you have a Swiss bank account. It's one of those two, right?
Yeah.
It's not happening in Argentina. So that system disproportionately favors the extremely wealthy. Well, as soon as a blockchain's involved, as long as you have the internet and something of value to trade for it, if the system is set up properly, you can now access these things. And so what it is a global expansion of capital markets, of investing, of currencies to everybody in the world, and importantly, on an opt-in basis, right? Like nobody is sitting there with a gun to your head saying you have to use the blockchain. All of these are things that people are going and electing to buy. And so I really think it is this sort of, call it democratization of finance in a way that just was not possible before we had open access, credibly neutral ledgers.
Well said. I love the park analogy. I'm stealing that from you, and I will give you credit. Austin, you're on a roll. We got to take a quick break. Give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, Prime XBT. When we get back, we are going to keep buzzing. Huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet. You can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50. That is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Austin. Okay, we just taken a lovely deep dive on stablecoins, tokenization of assets, the traditional payment systems, the decoupling of lending incentives from user incentives. We touched on the Genius Act, but we didn't really take a deep dive on that. Regulation and market innovation is a huge, huge part of this. And you've talked about smart regulation many a times. What exactly does smart regulation look like? Maybe bring some references or some past points from some good things like the Genius Act and maybe some other shitty things you've seen from the regulators or anything of the like. But what does smart regulation look like in your eyes, Austin?
Yeah, so I always start by evaluating what are our goals in the first place? What are we trying to achieve here? And so for me, smart regulation comes down to, did you protect consumers adequately? Did you create a system that allows for innovation and improvement over time? And then did you set a clear set of fair rules for everybody to play by? Right. And when you stop yourself and ask, like, what are we trying to achieve here? I think it's very important, because then you can start looking at regulations in the world and sort of judge them on that, because regulatory problems kind of, I'll say, come in three varieties, right? One is it just doesn't work the way you think and you broke something. Like we've seen plenty of those in the past, right? Like this is the classic, the road to hell is paved with good intentions sort of thing. In the United States, we've got like the NYDFS that had a beautiful stablecoin regime that they created in 2018. And by failing to update it at all, it basically became obsolete because it took them 2.5 years to even approve issuing something on Solana. Right. And so now nobody's using it and everybody's moving away. So it has to do the thing you want, right? Like it has to actually work. Two, Regulations that entrench legacy systems or industry capture are bad things, right? Like regulations need to work for the average person. They should not be reinforcing the dominance of somebody like JP Morgan. If you've written regulations and they're overly complex, they're overly burdensome, or they're unclear, so only the people with giant legal departments and lobbying departments can work with them, you've made a terrible mistake, right? These need to be pro-consumer and pro-competition. The third part is they actually need to protect consumers. Like, one thing that I find a little bit toxic in the crypto space is the whole idea of like, do your own research and everybody should be their own expert. And I think that's because I come from a family largely of medical people. So like my father is a doctor and my mother was a nurse and they worked long hours, right?
Yeah.
But they're like helping people who literally have like brain cancer and bone marrow transplants and in the OR and in the ER. And like, if you're a sane, reasonable, functional human being, you should immediately understand the problem of going and telling like my father, who is an oncologist, hey, listen, I know those kids have brain cancer, but let them die. You need to understand the future of decentralized money and spend more time self-managing your own funds, right? Like, that's insane. It's
true. It's true.
It's a refutation of the value of like specialization of labor to tell everybody they need to be self-sufficient. And so to me, and this has been one of the big problems with why crypto has had a hard time breaking into the mainstream, you can't make it so hard for normal people to use or lack the elements of consumer protection that somebody like my father rationally goes, well, I'm not spending time on this, right?
Yeah. No, it's so true.
That's good regulation. All right, so let's talk about a few examples globally. I want to start by actually giving a shout out to Japan, which will surprise some people, but the Financial Services Authority in Japan dealt with one of the first major crypto hacks, which was Mt. Gox. And so one of the things that they learned early on is, wait a minute. Why are we allowing this space to create the most dense financial entities possible, which is the centralized crypto exchange, where they are the exchange, the custodian, and doing all of the trading against their customers? And so in Japan, they forced the custodian to separate from the exchange and to be local. And what that means, trivia for everybody, is that the only FTX subsidiary in the world where people didn't lose money was FTX Japan, right? All of the funds were there and in custody in Japan. So when it failed, they could just take them back and give them to people. Yeah, it worked, right? And by the way, this is an old school TradFi principle of separate the exchange from the custodian because
old school,
like you can't trust them, right? Again, but like crypto is speed running a lot of the lessons that finance people already know, even if they like to disguise it to protect their trade power. 2, I think Genius is a very good act. If you look at what really happened there, it's a straight line from the money market reform efforts that were led by the Boston Fed after 2008 all the way to Genius. Yeah. Where the Boston Fed looked at the whole space after 2008, where there were a few things standing and then a bunch of smoldering wreckage. And we're like, okay, what happened here? Government money market funds, you guys are cool. Stable value funds, not perfect, but your building is still standing. That's okay. Prime funds, nope. ABCP, nope. Like uninsured bank deposits, nope. Right? Just going down the list on these kinds of things. And so Genius basically just canonizes what they already understood about cash stability products, which is if you want something to be blast proof when things go wrong, it's a government money market fund and it's held in a bankruptcy remote way, e.g. no mixing it in with all the bad stuff. And that's all Genius is. So anybody who's out there being hysterical about stablecoins, I want to simplify what they're saying to you, which is to say that government money market funds titled in the name of the user will destroy the financial system, right? Little bit crazy when you just simplify it that way, but Genius is a very good act for that reason. It gets us back to what I was saying about the payments system. Other good stuff that exists in the world, Bermuda has actually had both a good stablecoin framework and some very good work on exchanges, a little bit like Japan. And I think more people need to be paying attention to some of the regulatory efforts there. I know the island is largely known for reinsurance, but they've done some innovative crypto stuff. Contra like Mika in the EU, which, to be honest, this is the classic European
debacle,
vastly over specifying things and not understanding what they did. And you end up Like if anybody's a Simpsons fan, they basically built the Homer Mobile, which is by trying to put all the features into something, nobody likes it. So Nika's not a thing. And net, like you can kind of go down the list. And so what are the good things? They're the ones who understood first principles and lessons from TradFi and just cleanly applied them. The bad things are the ones that either just hate crypto or over-specified on the ledger technology without thinking about economic reality.
Wow. Great rip. Okay. You put on a master class here, and this is awesome. Walk me through Zero Knowledge, walk me through Open Frontier. You can pick which one you want to choose first. My apologies if I'm getting this right, but founder of Zero Knowledge consulting firm, the absolute masterclass you just went on. Anyone needs help with any of those things Austin just talked about, that's where Zero Knowledge comes in. And Open Frontier is pretty similar, and you're a board member there. But tell us a little bit about both of them, how people can get in touch, and what exactly you guys do.
Yeah, let's start with Open Frontier because I think that's going to be more fun for a lot of listeners, which is one of the things that I've observed over time in the crypto space, especially in the United States, is that the debate has gotten very partisan and very sort of like niche in a way that I think does a disservice to the long-term value of what everybody is trying to do. And that is to say, to go all the way back to where we started, what crypto really brings is an opportunity to rebalance the system in favor of Main Street, as opposed to being in favor of Wall Street. And honestly, one, that should be a bipartisan priority. Two, it's very pro-worker. And three, it's very pro-human rights, because expanding something like US dollar stablecoins to everybody globally who has access to the internet is a gigantic expansion of human rights. If you're in a repressive, like corrupt, or just quite frankly, criminal regime, and now you have the opportunity to opt into US dollar assets under US rule of law, that changes your life, right? Your local government can no longer just confiscate your whole bank account because you tweeted something mean at a politician. Amazing. Two, though, because it got very partisan in the United States, there are a lot of Democrats who lost their way and act like this is sort of like all a Donald Trump project or something like that. Let me tell you, the original cypherpunks who created Bitcoin would have some things to say about that. But like, it's sort of losing the punchline, right? It's like assuming that a Democrat was driving a car and accidentally ran a kid over, and then Republicans suddenly become anti-car. It's like, I don't know that that's the lesson you're supposed to take from this. And so Open Frontier, and I'll say I'm a board member there. I work with some excellent people like Eric and Larry and Amanda and Justin, but it is a pro-technology, pro-progress, like pro-open access effort around crypto and I'll say technology, maybe even a wider way, to help people understand a lot of these are tools to help break down a lot of the entrenched like monopolies and power in the system, as opposed to the problem itself, right? Like this is actually the solution. And we're trying to fix the dialogue. So if anybody is interested in having that discussion, if anybody cares about open access, open source, like bringing sort of a positive and more Main Street view of the financial system into the world, that's what we're trying to do at Open Frontier. And that's why I thought it was meaningful, right? Like this shouldn't be a debate between people who want the government to run the banking system and people who want 3 hedge fund billionaires to run the banking system, right? Like there is another path.
Well said.
Open Frontier. All right, Zero Knowledge. I kind of founded this company accidentally, Matt, right? And what I mean by that is when I left Paxos, I was figuring out, what do I want to do next? I was thinking of launching a stablecoin startup. And yet when I left, I had a bunch of people who are friends of mine coming to me and being like, hey, can you help me with this? 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 So after a couple of months, I've done zero marketing, like zero. And I have a very low like opinion of most consultants. They don't know anything. They're a waste of money. They just blah, blah, blah. All joking aside, half the reason the firm is named Zero Knowledge is that is my median opinion of consultants. And so it's a reminder to both them and myself. And then I'm still a trader though. Like I was a trader for a long time. And when the market's just like bid, it's telling you something. And so I ended up starting this firm. And what we do is advisory work for people who functionally put it this way, want to do one of two things. Either you're in crypto and you want to build things that are durable, sustainable, and might have actual users. So I run into a lot of people in the RWA space, some of the blockchain foundations more interested in things like that, some of like the security and InfoSec people who are trying to make sure that things work properly, like say the Inca Digitals of the world. And so that's one whole sleeve of that side of the bridge. The other side of the bridge, and let me tell you, boy, do these people need help right about now. So I've kind of two years early to where the puck was going, is everybody who now is in traditional finance and wants to figure out how to tokenize things.
Yeah.
Because they don't, for the most part.
They have zero clue.
Yeah, have the expertise internally, and they have a hard time generating it. Look, I will tell you, I think most TradFi firms can get good business people in the crypto sleeve. Like they can find, call it people who can do deals, people who want to do partnerships, people who understand problems. That's well-staffed. Your risk people, your traders, your lawyers, your tech people, that's where the problem is. And then
the specialists.
Yeah, exactly. And then management at these places has the problem of, well, can I listen to my business people because they get paid when things happen, so that's their incentive. But I have risk people telling me things that don't sound right. Like I'm pretty sure 100% of Bitcoin is not money laundering because if nothing else, it seems like the US government owns some. And so you end up in this world where these people need a lot of help at both the strategic level and the operational level to figure out what they're doing. And so that's kind of the TradFi side. And so the firm, I jokingly say, has just become a bridge between the two worlds.
I love the name. When I first heard Zero Knowledge, I was like, ZK proof? And I was like, nah, that's probably not it. But it's even better now. I love that. Austin, this was an absolute banger. I had so much fun on this epi, and we got to have you on for round 2 as well. My apologies if I'm not putting words in your mouth per se, but I could feel the prof in you when you're speaking. A lot of the times, we get, I don't want to say a sales pitch on the show, but there's some sort of agenda being pushed. I feel like you were I felt like I was a couple of rows up and you were just, pacing back and forth, spitting fire. So I love that. I've been in school since, 10 years ago. So the absolute banger. Appreciate you coming on. Before you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and, of course, Zero Knowledge and Open Frontier online and on socials?
Yeah, so we're on all of those things. Like, here's probably the easiest way to do most of this, which is find me on Twitter at Austin Campbell. Everything else is in the bio, right? So, like, all of the pieces will fall down from there. Open Frontier posts a lot on LinkedIn as well. I'm going to be honest, I kind of find LinkedIn to be like OnlyFans for middle managers, so I don't spend a lot of time there.
It's the worst place in the whole world.
They have to talk to certain types of policy people who are on there, so no harm, no foul. I post there sometimes too. It is what it is. But like, if you really want my genuine thoughts, find my Twitter and everything else goes from there.
Love it. Folks, what an episode with Austin Campbell, founder of Zero Knowledge Consulting and board member of Open Frontier. This was an absolute masterclass. Huge shout out to Austin and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, thank you so much for everything. Jeg, you're doing a great job. Keep on crushing it. And back to the listeners. Love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying happy, healthy, and wealthy. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Ciao.